It is 13 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African time as we turn our focus now to relations between Zambia and China. Zambia is hosting China's Premier Qiang for the first time in 28 years. The visit comes as the sub-Saharan state emerges from a financial crisis, with Beijing eager to access commodities and expand its market for exporters. Premier Qiang's arrival in Lusaka is seen as part of a push to deepen China's presence in the copper-rich country. The Asian country is Zambia's largest official creditor, owing $5.7 billion. For more on this, we joined on the line by Yusuf Dodia, an economist based in Zambia. Good to be talking to you once again, Yusuf. A very good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. It's good to be with you.
So what does this Chinese Premier Qiang's visit signal about China's, long-term economic strategy in Zambia and perhaps more in southern Africa as a whole?
Well, I think, of course, for China, China is, arguably the world's largest economy now, and looking at how it can foster ties with other countries across the world to maintain its lead and continue to feed its industrial complex with raw materials and inputs that make them the world's largest producer of goods. But I prefer to look at China as a development partner, where we don't spend too much time thinking about what China is trying to do. We spend a lot more time thinking of what benefits can we achieve from our relationship with China. So I want to go back to the 1970s, the early 1970s. Zambia wanted to build a railway line between the middle of Zambia, a place called Kapirimposhi, all the way to Dar es Salaam in Tanzania on the Indian Ocean. And every country around the world that was a developed economy said it was not possible, that the terrain was too hostile, that it was an engineering impossibility. And China came on board and took this particular project in hand and built this almost 2,000-kilometer railway line that that went through 22 mountains. So we have 22 tunnels going through mountains and 68 bridges that take us all the way to the port of Dar es Salaam. And this was in the early 1970s. It became the lifeline that Zambia had to the outside world in terms of exports and imports. And since then, in the last 61 years, we've seen China come on board with supporting Zambia in the development of road infrastructure, in the development of airports, in the development of power stations, in the development of conference centers in 2 or 3 parts of the country. And as you rightly said, also in terms of giving us support, in terms of credit, being the largest creditor that we have, which is about half the national foreign debt at around $6 billion. So I think there's great opportunity for Zambia to leverage on this visit from the Chinese premier to strengthen these ties. We do know that China also has a project called the Belt and Road Initiative, which is looking at infrastructure connectivity across countries. And remember that Zambia is at the moment landlocked. We have 8 neighbors. We'd love to see our connections to the neighbors around us, and China would be a very good development partner in achieving that through rail and road networks. And China is also taking the lead in trying to equalize the global financial system. We have a financial system that is predominantly driven by the United States and the European Union. And we're beginning to see under the BRICS initiative opportunities for other mechanisms that don't put African countries at the mercy of developed Western countries in terms of the value of their currencies and the trading regulations in terms of movement of money across the globe.
Yusuf,
so I believe that
Yes, I think we've spoken
Yeah.
quite extensively about China's impact on Zambia and the developments which really date back decades. But how important is Zambia to China's supply chain? And I'm thinking specifically around the area of copper and other critical minerals.
My view and the studies that I've done is that Zambia is exporting roughly between 70 and $100 million a day of copper. And predominantly this copper is going to China. Strangely enough, our largest trading partner is Switzerland. If you look at the country which receives the copper or purchases the copper and that is invoicing Zambia, and this is Switzerland. So clearly, Switzerland is just a go-between. China is actually the country that is consuming most of our copper. And so, of course, one of the opportunities we have is for China to set up mining investments in Zambia in the copper mining industry so that they're able to access copper directly from Zambia and not through a European third party. But I think more importantly is we've got 5 or 6 large economic zones that have been set up, and we'd like to see Chinese investment in Zambia in value addition on copper. So we'd like to see copper drawing and copper cabling manufacturing plants set up in Zambia. That means that we would export less and less copper and export more and more copper value added products. And this would be a huge change in the dynamics that we currently are in terms of value to the Zambian economy.
And talking about that, talking about dynamics and talking about value, what are the risks that are associated with such extensive investment and dependence on one country specifically? We've spoken about the upside, but what are the risks associated with this for Zambia specifically?
Well, the risk for Zambia is living in the Messiah syndrome. The Messiah syndrome is where you have a huge economy like China or the European Union or the United States do a lot of things in your country, and you just sit back and say, well, they're taking care of us and we're good. Clearly, every country that's doing business with African countries is looking at benefiting.
Are you still with us, Yusuf? All right, sounds like our line is compromised there with Yusuf Dodia. Our producer, Mabu, will try and get him back on the line as we continue our conversation. Are you back with us, Yusuf? All right, I did hear that line drop. We'll be back in just a moment as we continue our conversation. We've spoken a lot about the benefits that China's investment in Zambia has had. But what is the flip side? And Yusuf was starting to talk to us about that Messiah syndrome and being overly dependent on one particular nation as far as investment is concerned.